Welcome to Lose Weight and Feel Great for Perimenopausal Women. We are in session 3. Here is what we're learning today. The number one most important hormone you must have balanced for weight loss success as we age. Number 2, the best way to crush cravings. 3, how to tell if your meal is balanced or not. I'm going to give you some key things to look for. And 4, the healthy thing you're doing that is hurting you. And 5 is the 2 highest bang for your buck lab tests that I believe every woman who wants to age beautifully and healthfully should do. All right, before we get started, I just want to say you can be a success story too. It's really all about what you value and what you put your intention and attention towards. So Lynn K was able to lose weight and balance hormones, and that was even after being on the pill for decades, which was very damaging to her system. Karen P was an exercise trainer that was able to eliminate her fatigue and sleep better and lose a little bit of weight herself. And Glenna had debilitating IBS that was gone after we worked together. So you can read more about these ladies, their stories on my website, nourishandflourishhealth.com. All right, so let's get started with the meat of the program. How can I lose weight when I constantly battle cravings? Well, there are 2 things we have to be concerned about. The first thing is be wary of unhealthy food that is surely marketed as healthy. Things like whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, crackers, wraps, rice cakes, energy bars, cereals, chips. Basically, the only thing healthy on this is the guacamole. Guacamole is a great source of healthy fat and vitamin E, but most likely most of us eat it with too many chips anyway. But whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, wraps, those are marketed as healthy, but they are anything but. Number 2, the number one hormone that you have to be careful for as an aging female is insulin. Insulin is produced by the pancreas. It is not a sex hormone. It is a peptide hormone. And high insulin can cause you to store fat. It can actually cause you to make more male sex hormones. It can cause insulin resistance if you're always pumping out too much of it, but it can't get into the cells where it belongs. It leads to diabetes, and it can keep you on this terrible blood sugar roller coaster where you're always hungry, and then you crave, and then you're hungry, and then you crave. Also, insulin and cortisol work in a circle together. So blood sugar increases insulin, insulin increases cortisol. Cortisol is our stress hormone. Too much cortisol is not good. So really, ladies, beware of the insulin surge. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. That is really the biggest hormone that you need to give your attention towards if you are concerned about weight loss. All right, the key to crushing your cravings, or at least the main key. There are a few others, but I'm going to give you one of my main keys to crushing your cravings. And that is that you must have fats, carbs, and protein at every meal. And I like to actually say fat, fiber, and protein. And that is going to help you really feel satiated. If you have a protein meal with 0 carbs, you're going to probably be left wanting. If you have a carb and protein meal without any fat, you're going to be left wanting. I cannot tell you how many of my clients make their morning smoothies with all sorts of healthy stuff like kale and some frozen fruit and a high quality protein powder. And then I say to them, okay, so where's the fat in that? And they look at me kind of wide-eyed. And I tell them you have to have fat in every meal. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it does have to be some. So the fat, carb, protein, or like I said, fat, fiber, and protein, not just any carbs. That is where we really run the risk of going askew here. You want carbs that are primarily vegetable-based. Some fruit is fine. Some sweet potatoes are fine. But primarily vegetables, primarily high fiber carbohydrates. Examples of how this may look on your plate. So you've got looks like a delicious chicken and asparagus dish there. So the chicken is a great source of protein. The asparagus is going to be your fiber, your phytonutrients. Looks like there's creamy or, sauce that has a little bit of fat on that chicken. So for your smoothie, like I said before, you're going to have a protein powder. You're going to have a little bit of fruit, not too much. You're going to have a healthy fat source in that. That can be a couple of nuts. My favorite is to put in a slice of avocado. You can do coconut oil. For a snack, your apple is purely your carbohydrate, but it's got fiber as well, which is great. You've got your almonds, you've got a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat, a little bit of fiber, and yes, it's actually okay to have a little bit of dark chocolate now and then. As long as it's over 72%, even 80% or higher dark chocolate is going to be better for you. So that's just some examples of how fat, fiber, protein looks on your plate. Okay, are you balancing your meals? Signs of a balanced meal is that you feel full for 4 hours. You have little to no food cravings. You feel energized. You don't have to take a nap after you eat your lunch. And you have this good mental focus, like you're raring and ready to go. Signs of an unbalanced meal. Biggest sign is that you're hungry too soon. If you are truly hungry an hour or 2 hours after you have that morning protein smoothie, you did not make it correctly. If you have frequent cravings, you're likely not balancing your meal. You feel sluggish, you have no energy, and you lack mental focus. You're likely not balancing your meal and getting in enough phytonutrients. There are some other reasons behind this as well, but if you can tell me that you feel those things on the left, full for 4 hours, little or no food cravings, good focus, good energy, you're probably eating correctly. Okay, so is exercise the healthy thing you're doing, but it's not seeming to help you? So that time-worn, eat less, exercise more advice is not all that helpful for many women because it causes more release of cortisol into an already inflamed system. Remember, cortisol is our stress hormone. It's absolutely necessary. We would actually be dead without cortisol, but too much is not good. Too much really breaks the body down. So it's really important that you get food, sleep, balanced hormones, and stress management in place before you undertake a punishing exercise routine. Now, if you remember in the last video, I spoke about exercise. I believe in exercise. I think it is one of the most important things to have in your life for healthy aging. But if you're adding in exercise on top of not sleeping well, on top of not optimal nutrition, on top of unbalanced hormones and high stress, you're probably going to be doing yourself more harm than good. So you're thinking, but I thought exercise was healthy. And like I said, absolutely is. I think it is one of the most important things to have dialed in as you age and for healthy weight loss. But here's how to know if your exercise is hurting you and not helping you. It's draining and you feel exhausted. You feel good afterwards, but you crash hours later. You are easily injured. You take a long time to recover. You're very, very sore afterwards and not in a good way. Like you feel like you have to take an aspirin or a Tylenol, and you are frequently sick. Then exercise is probably something you need to dial back and reevaluate the other things in your life and then add back in when you're ready, or take a form of exercise that's much gentler on the body like yoga or Pilates until you can be healthier to the point where you can add in a little bit more rigorous exercise. Because truly, an imbalanced body leads to weight gain. And that weight gain especially happens in the midsection, and it also leads to injuries. And when you get injured, when you're in midlife and you're so desirous to get your life back on track, but you're not really, don't have a coach, don't have a plan, you get injured, that can lead to depression, that can lead to setbacks. So really, you don't want to go gung-ho into exercise until you have a certain level of health in your life and balanced hormones. Okay, because I just want to remind you, when stress goes up, so does cortisol. Our entire endocrine system is interconnected. Medicine would have us understand that we visit a cardiologist for our heart, and an endocrinologist for our hormones, and an ophthalmologist for our eyes. And yes, medical specialty is good, of course, in certain cases, but it also gets us to think in very disparate and separate ways. Our body is interconnected. And when you get stressed out, your cortisol goes up. When your cortisol goes up, your insulin surges. When your insulin surges, you run the risk of laying down fat, especially in the belly area. And that is an area that so many midlife women struggle with. All right, I want to talk to you about the two completely non-negotiable tests that every woman should do if she is concerned about her health as she ages and wanting to be at a healthy weight and to have good brain health and not experience rapid cognitive decline and low mood. It's really about taking control of your health and being the CEO of your own health. So one is the Dutch test. That is a sex hormone and adrenal hormone test, and it also looks at a few brain neurotransmitters, and it looks at a couple of really necessary vitamin levels as well. So that is a no-brainer. I've done hundreds of these tests, and what I love to see, besides the data that I get to be able to improve women's lives, I love to see how when I explain it to them, they light up and they take these changes seriously. So a great lab test is great for your clinician, but it's also great for you because it's so motivating. And the second non-negotiable test that I use is the GI map. That is a DNA stool test. It lets us see if you have parasites, which are pretty common, worms, bacteria, candida. It looks at your health of your immune system. It looks at the health of your colon. It looks at inflammation in the colon. It can tell us if you're having a reaction to gliadin, which is a protein in wheat. There's so much information on this test. And the great thing about these tests, it's not like the blood work that you get when you go to your doctor's office. It is highly actionable. Almost everyone has some areas of improvement that we get back and that we work on. You're most likely not going to do these tests and hear everything just checks out fine, like you do typically when you get your standard metabolic panel, your CBC, your blood count at your annual physical. I mean, unless you're really sick or really have some disease progression going on, most people come back with fairly decent readings on their blood work. And they leave scratching their head. They leave the doctor's office scratching their head because they know they don't feel well. They know they can be more energetic. They know that something's not quite right, but yet their blood work shows that everything's pretty much A-okay. And that's because those tests are very, very basic and they don't find issues unless you're really progressed. I guarantee you with these tests, if you come in to see me and you're not feeling well, you're gaining weight, you've got low libido, you've got, weight in the midsection, you've got low mood, you've got some symptoms of estrogen dominance, we will find things on these tests that you can fix and work on. And that is the awesome thing about these tests, and that is why I call these the two non-negotiable tests for women that want to age beautifully and healthfully. All right, I want to ask you a question. Are you ready to soar? Are you ready to make your health a priority? Do you want to be just living a rocking life at 50, 60, 70, 80? It is possible, but you do have to lay the foundation now. So I do mentor women who want to age with ease, beauty, and grace, with their wits and their waistlines intact. It is possible. It takes a little bit more work, but it is entirely possible. And you want to do this because you want to live a great life. You want to make a difference in the world. And you know that you need your health to be top notch. So if that is you, if that describes you, if anything in this video series has spoken to you, then let's get on a free health strategy call together. You can click there to book, and I hope you found this really informative and helpful.